Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back welcoming you to the Friday night chop session with Stormybman for this Friday, March 19th, 2021. And we are having episode 102, and we're calling them Touch 'em Up, right? Want to say welcome to everybody out there. I hope that everyone has had a great week. It's been a rough week for your man here, Stormy B, man. Ain't really feeling it, but I'm here. Got a job to do. Sometimes you just gotta bite down on that mouthpiece and get out there and get the job done. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here, and I hope that the spirits can be better as we pick things up and move it right along. But it's Friday, y'all. It's the end of the week. We got some fights on the horizon. We're going to talk about them a little bit. We're going to talk about the Thunderous Top 10 tonight. And we'll see after we come out of this weekend if there are some adjustments to the Thunderous Top 10, because one of our featured fighters from the Thunderous Top 10 is making his comeback this weekend. So we are anxious to see how he's going to do and if he will hold his position that he has currently. But we will see. We will find out. You know what I'm saying? So, but we are here. We got a show to do. Stormy B Man is here with you guys. I want to take a moment to go back to the chat, see who we got out there. We got my man Taylor Bell out there in that super chat, and he's got, let's see, what does that say there? I want to see. It says starting the Friday night off right. That's right, Taylor. We starting it off right. Stormy B Man doing the Friday night chop session, and we got you out there with the super chat kicking the show off. That's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Appreciate you. And he says starting the Friday night off right. Stormy B Man. Who else we got out there? We got a few more people out here. Let's see what we got. I didn't put my glasses on for the show, so forgive me, people. We got Tone Brown. DT is out there. Salute to you, DT. He says, salute Stormy B-Man in the chat. Young World is out there, says, yo, salute Big Storm in the chat. Salute to you. And Taylor's saying, here we go. Big Homie Coop is out there saying, salute Seafood at Stormy B-Man and back smack that like button. And Taylor is also saying, don't forget to hit that like button. Big Homie Coop says, class is in session. G5_Gabe is out there, says, salute Sensei Stormy B-Man and the chat family. Boxing and Barbecue, my man is out there, says, what's up, Stormy? I got your email. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens is out there doing double duty. He says, salute my peoples. And we got a couple people greeting each other. Mike 202 is out there, says, salute Sensei Stormy B Man. Taylor Bell is shouting out Reggie. He says, yo, Reggie, you got some really good content released in the last few days. Yeah, man, you guys got to go over there and check Reggie out, because he be cooking, man. I'm telling you. And it's not always about boxing. He got some good stuff going on over there. And it's always great to see a brother be able to talk about what's between the pages of a good book, huh? And Reggie is doing that right now. He's bringing people back to reading, which is not only fundamental, but reading is essential. You know what I'm saying? So think about it. You know, get out there and get a part of Reggie's book reading club, man. He's got some good subject matter that he gets out over there as well. And it's always great to see brothers coming together in the most positive of manners doing stuff like that. So salute to the brother Reggie Owens with what he's got going over there on his channel. Dave the Real Thomas is out there, says salute. Alvin Davis is out there saying salute everyone. Salute to you too, brothers. Glad to have you tonight for the chop session. Yeah, man. It's been another week of a lot of banter going back and forth over the social media airwaves, man. I don't know when these guys are going to begin to, kind of put the Twitter fingers down and start picking up pens and signing contracts, huh? Because it's time for these guys to start getting in the ring, man. We've had some more conversation taking place, with this whole thing with David Benavidez and Jamal Charlo, excuse me. And Charlo's been out there, he's been out there talking, and he's had this man answer him, and now he's kind of ticked off, you know what I'm saying? Because he's feeling like, oh, this guy wants some of me now, huh? Well, yeah. And he wants it because you open up that door. And we're in an age and time where, it's step up, put up or shut up. And we could see that Benavidez wants to have some type of a opponent that he could look forward to or whatever. But I'll tell you guys something, man. I was listening to my man, the Arcanum, and formerly the Focus Ball. And he had a stream earlier today, and salute to the Arcanum. He said that, one of the things that nobody's really thinking about is that maybe, just maybe, Benavidez is being put up to this. And I'll tell you something. That's a possibility. A strong possibility. Because, all the good fighters around the weight divisions are being avoided presently. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least if this is another one of those situations where guys are being, they're being avoided. Think about it. Benavidez could be a threat for Canelo Alvarez, who has already stated he's not interested in facing Mexican fighters anymore. Now, Benavidez is on the young side, but he has what I've said, and I said this going into his fights last weekend. He has what's called a beneficial upside if he decides to become focused and disciplined. At a young age of 24, he's already had a couple of significant run-ins where he, had his titles stripped from him for two different reasons on two different occasions. But if this young man can get it together, he can get out there and stir up something at that weight where he fights. And as he matures and gets a little bigger, because he's a big man, and moves up, hopefully. He has a face front type style, which is always popular. It's always engaging for the audience. It's good for the boxing crowd, right? It's like you could see a guy who hits and gets hit. I don't believe he's been hurt at that weight class where he is. He's such a formidable guy there. I don't believe he's been hurt, but he can use to tweak up his defense, and get that part of his game together. But it's always exciting when a man is not afraid of contact in the sport of boxing. And for those who are thinking that he's not skillful in what he's doing, you have to understand he's been in the gym around a fighting family since he was in his early teens. You know what I mean? He's not new to this. And to be able to make it to where he's made it thus far and still become a two-time champion speaks of, where the waters of the sport lie. And it's like it's not a very deep ocean. Okay? So think about it in terms of that. But for unproven commodities, though good, though thought of as, premium in the sport, a fighter such as Jamal Charlo, he's the type of fighter that you don't know how good he is because he really hasn't had that opponent that challenges him and puts him in a situation where you're going into a fight and it's kind of 50-50. Think about it in terms of like his smaller brother, twin, right? Where Mel went into that fight with Harrison, and Harrison, being the dandy of a boxer that he is, he was going to ask questions of Mel. But one thing Mel had going for him that made that quite a competitive fight going in, looking at who could win. He already had very good boxing skills. His power has come on in the interim, but he always had very good boxing skills. And you always want to see fighters be able to box. It's one thing to be in showcase fights where you're stopping a lot of guys and you're looking your best because of matchmaking. But it's another thing to get out there and be in a position to have a question asked of you in a fight, and then you be forced to have to solve the problems or answer those questions. And we're seeing so much of showcase today, we're not seeing the lessons learned aspect of boxing for some of these prospects who have become titleists and have become former titleists. So it's a thing that comes together. Now, when you talk about these two young men, and I call them young because they both young enough to be my son, but it's like they do offer the type of talent that requires challenge. And there's nothing wrong with these two men facing off, not because there may be a grudge or anything, but because they're premier in their talents. And why not mesh their wares and see what can happen? Right now, if you're thinking about someone like Canelo Alvarez, this man is in a different class, not because he's so much better or whatever, but he has been put in a position where his income is set, and accolades and merits have been heaped upon him without him doing what's necessary against his contemporaries. And it doesn't look like he's going to start anytime soon. Even the fight that's on the horizon with Billy Joe Saunders, to me, that's not necessarily a challenge for him. He seems to, like in a minefield, navigate his way around the danger spots in boxing and is keeping himself winning and looking decent against the opposition that he's selecting. And he's definitely selecting his opposition. Let me take a moment and go back to the chat. We've got some more people out there. Let's see. We got Terry Smoot Jr. out there. Says, King Stormy B-Man, salute my sensei. Salute to you. He says, smash the like button. Yes, sir. My man Curtis Anderson out there, a.k.a. Kurt Sugar. He says, salute. And everybody else is greeting. Yeah, man. So when you're talking about these fighters doing what they do, you kind of want to see them in a situation of graduating to a level and a class of accomplishment, and then you can start to acknowledge them for their accomplishments. So many people look to not necessarily want to see what these guys could do, because they they may like a particular fighter and they may not want to see him hurt or challenged or even lose. But hey, man, challenges are a part of life, such as overcoming and falling behind. So that's a reality that we all deal with on an everyday basis. So if you don't want to see your favorite fighter, get defeated or suffer a setback or even a loss or something, it's like, go watch the guys in the movies, okay? Because the script is already written, and that's what you can do. You can enjoy it like that. Rocky is always going to win, okay? Little Creed is going to always win, right? But in real life, man, life can deal you some thorns to go with those roses. You understand? You can't have the roses without the thorns, because the thorns make up the attachment to the rose as a part of the branch. And in this branch of life, there are thorns for your behind, and they can stick you in your behind if you ain't careful. So just know that. My man Eric Jenkins has joined us out there. I see you. He says, Stormybman, salute 100. Salute to you, brother. So yeah, smash that like button as you guys come in, man. But yeah, so those are kind of like my opening thoughts on these two guys. I think they should get together, not for the sake of like it being grudge or whatever, but being competitive, looking to challenge one another. Maul could be challenging for a new weight class, and David can be challenging for someone that's on that level of respectability. So let's get it on, as Mills Lane used to say. That's how I would like to see that go down. And who knows, you might be entertained from some very good action out there. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about we got a fight coming up this weekend with Virgil Ortiz Jr. and Maurice Hooker. But not so much about that fight just yet, but the fact that he's thinking ahead, right? And he's thinking like he wants Bud Crawford. As Riddick Bowe used to say, he said, never too old for your wants to hurt you, okay? Think about it in terms like this. Bud Crawford is a class fighter who's been around. He's starting to get a little long in the tooth. Yeah, I'll say it because it's true. He's over 34 now. I think he's about to turn 35. And I'll tell you, time waits for no one. He has come up from the lighter weights. Excuse me. He has come up from the lighter weights, and he has accomplished a great deal with being undefeated and having not only won multiple titles, but also becoming an undisputed champion at 140, junior welterweight. Things have kind of been mired in mud at 147 with the fact that so many fighters are on a different network than he is, and as far as promoters and things like that. But always remember, throughout the years, the best of the best have always found a way to come together and do it. If these two men, meaning like unified champion Earl Spence Jr. and Terrence Bud Crawford, don't come together, it would be a shame for the sport of boxing, because it would be just one less legacy fight that could really put us over the moon that won't transpire. But Mr. Virgil Ortiz has his eyes set on Bud Crawford. Now, it's interesting because I don't know if these guys are looking at Bud as, because he came up from smaller divisions to compete where he is now as champion for the WBO. And these guys have already, begun their careers at 147, and they're just looking at him like, oh, well, he's a little guy, so I can go in there and take him. But let me tell you something. Evander Holyfield, who used to be my favorite fighter, would speak on these things when they would talk about him when he moved from cruiserweight to the heavyweight division. They were always talking about he being too small, not having enough power, wouldn't be able to hold up under the heavyweight punch, and so forth and so on. And Evander used to simply answer the critics and naysayers with, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Okay? And it was never so true than when he performed, because a lot of those big dogs went out there trying to stick their hand near his mouth and he bit their arm off. That's what he did. So Terrence Bud Crawford, who has accomplished what he has in the sport, not by just luck or being in showcase circumstances, he's done it because he has skills and he has a little bit of a fire burning in that belly of his when it comes to competing in the sport. You could see it in the way that he finishes fights, the way he prevails over opponents, and the way he rises toward challenges. Now, Virgil Ortiz, who's a limited fighter, but he's a good young fighter. He's aggressive, he's strong, he's of the typical come forward style and look to break you down to the body and things like that. I don't know that his coaches and trainers have shown him and taught him that it's the fighters like Bud Crawford that will give him most difficulty. And usually they don't cosign to fighting, looking to seat those boxers out like that. And Bud is definitely a boxer puncher, okay? So when you think about it, you got these guys out here, they looking at him, oh, he little, this and that. Well, Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker was little too. And he kicked a lot of big old tail, And it's like you go back and open up these videos and dust them off and start watching them, you'll see what I'm talking about. I want to go to the chat real quick. Boxing and Barbecue is saying, laugh out loud, I see what you did there, Stormy. He says, if Jamal win, where does that put him pound for pound? Well, he is on my pound for pound. Well, it's not a pound for pound list for me. It's this thunderous top 10, and we're going to get into that a little later. Mike 202 says, Stormy, is it the fighters of the networks that are holding back the fights that we would like to see? I'll tell you something. Fighters fight, man. A lot of times, promoters can get in the way, networks can get in the way, because they always have a tendency to want to showcase championship matches, okay? And this is the thing about boxing of today. Any network or app that's showing professional fights, they always want to advertise with a championship match. It doesn't have to be a championship match. It doesn't have, if it's two quality fighters in there getting it on, the fight fans don't care that it's a championship fight or not. They just want to see a great match. And see, that's where these suits and executives in these promotional companies and in the network television stations, that's what they do. They try to chase after the notion that it's the champions that sell. It's the championship. It's the belt that sells. No. We've said it time and time again. How many times have you heard my man Kurt Sugar say it? It's like the belt don't make the champion makes the belt. If it's a poor champion with a weak chin, get dropped all the time, barely inks out victories and everything, but he's staggering his way to the finish line in every match. Are people tuned in to him because he's the champion? No, they tuning into him because of his vulnerabilities, and they like waiting to see him get his butt kicked. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. A lot of people don't understand that when it comes down to when you're talking about the sport of boxing. You could take two guys who are club fighters, and because of their styles, will mash well. You put them on TV and they could give you the fighter of the year. And neither one of them is a champion. They're just club fighters. See, that's what I'm talking about. And then people don't really look into it, because when you see someone on TV, first and foremost, it's like, oh, he's on TV. But he may have filled in for a guy, and he comes in and beats the guy that's the TV network's fighter, or the house fighter, or whatever, the promoter's fighter. Now he gets a chance to come back and do it again, or do it with someone else. And fans like that kind of stuff. No matter what anybody says, people love an underdog. An underdog can always make someone feelings and emotions rise up, because people can identify with that. If you've been getting the sand kicked in your face like that guy, then all of a sudden you're given the opportunity to turn the table, so to speak. That's when the people sit up in their chairs. That's when they begin to applaud, right? That's when they begin to start yelling and screaming because you're overcoming. And they're living vicariously through your actions and activity. These fighters of the day don't recognize that. They don't recognize what really sells. You could be popular. You could be the best dressed, best looking, and all of that. That don't equate to being the best fighter, Seriously. We got Rashid Rourke out there. He says, peace, my brother, the wise man, Stormybman. Peace to everyone. Salute to you, Rashid Rourke. Good to see you out there, man. Good to see you. My man Taylor Bell, if you're out there, you could drop those what we were talking about in the chat from time to time. But listen, man. They always see something, these guys. They want to look over there now and poke a stick at Bud, because they think that he might be ripe for the pickings. But he's a skillful fighter, and he has multi dimensions to him. You know, I did a show called The 5-Dimensional Fighter. It's back there in the archives. You could check it out, a Tuesday Tussle. 5-dimensional fighters are not fighters you're going to easily get in there and beat up. Okay? And Bud is not shop worn. He's not taking punishment in there. He's on a string of knockouts right now. What is it, 7 or 8 since he won the undisputed title and moved up to welterweight. So he's had some very successful, he's had some very successful victories where and they're not all the same. You think about it. That's another thing. And I talked about this when I spoke about Jermell Charlo. The versatility that he has in how he's secured victories for himself. That's one of the things that put him at the top of my pound for pound list. He and Bud, I got him like 1 and 2 or 1A and 1B, because they've won with various type punches, knocked guys out with body punches, knocked them out with uppercuts, knocked them out with lefts and rights and hooks and whatnot, boxed guys' pants off or shorts, and won in a variety of manner. Gotten off the canvas to win. In the instance of Bud, people like to talk about him when he was doing his thing against Kavaliauskas, right? And he got hit, and he went to clinch, and he went down to that knee and everything. Everybody talks about he got dropped, but it was no different than when Earl Spence hit Sean Porter, and his glove barely touched the canvas. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't dazed. He wasn't looking for a a count or flat on his back or anything like that. And he got up and finished the fight. In Porter's case, in Bud's case, he got up and knocked that dude out because he was like, uh-oh, you trying to embarrass me? Like the guy said, Damon Wayans in The Great White Hype, when the Irish fighter tried to knock him out. He's like, you trying to embarrass me on TV? And if you look at Kavaliauskas, he realized he had opened up something that he had not intended to see in that fight. He thought he was seeing something enough, right? Where it's like, oh, Bud ain't that. He ain't all that. And then when Bud turned the level up on him, he was like, oh, it's hot in here. I got to take my shirt off. I got to, I think I'm going to go take a sleep. And he did. So that's what I want to say. And for a fighter like Virgil Ortiz Jr., right? You think about how he has fought guys and beaten them. Who has he fought that could move laterally, who could stand and fight on the inside and box from the outside, okay? Who can deliver a good shot, take a good shot, be versatile in there. He's been in against set-up fights. And I have to say, the fight that he has this weekend, and we will get into talking about that one, he's in against a decent boxer in Hooker, but Hooker's very unpolished. He's very open, and it may be just enough for Ortiz to have an advantage in that. That's not Bud Crawford, man. Bud Crawford is a seasoned veteran fighter who has almost like an animalistic instinct when it comes to setting people up, being sly, and then taking their goods from them. Whether you like the man or not, you can't sleep on his talent, which a lot of fighters in the weight class, they kind of seem to not, And I'll just say it like this, and you guys, that I know that we have a lot of people that support Earl Spence Jr., right? It's like this. If Bud Crawford was a really easy picking, Earl would have been fought the guy, gone over there and try to get that belt off of him. But he knows that that's a formidable task. And I'm not saying, oh, he's scared of Bud. No, I'm saying that he respects what that is. And he knows that I'd rather take care of my business first and let that be for the marbles or move on than to try to jeopardize what the whole ultimate agenda is. And most fighters come out as champions wanting to be able to have successful title defenses and to make money. You can make money fighting quality opposition, but you might not be champion very long if you fight too much of it in succession, just over and over and over again. So that's something to be thought about. And that's the way it is. You know what I mean? Who else we got out here? We got Mr. Mechanical is out there. What's going on with you, Mr. Mechanical? We see we got Rasheed Rourke is out there. He says, I think Bud stopped every welterweight he's faced. Yes, he has. All stoppages. And all of them, that's what I was saying, Rasheed Rourke, is that all of them in a different manner. It hasn't been the same thing over and over again. It's like some guys like Amir Khan. He quit from attrition. It was like he felt the heat. And Amir Khan, I don't think he's a quitter. He's a very vulnerable fighter and has been chinny, but against Bud, I think he saw the devil. I think he felt like, I ain't going to win this fight. And it happened to him so fast in that fight when Bud got to him and had him down in the first round, because people were talking about they could see Amir Khan going in there against Bud and having success, and maybe Bud having to come from behind, and pull out a victory because, Khan was outboxing him or something like that. Well, guess what? Bud had him on the canvas early in the first round. And see, that spoke about him being able to get to the guy more than the other guy being a decent boxer. Because his boxing, okay, he was an okay boxer, but his boxing skill set was not on Bud's level at all. Not at all. And that's something you have to realize when you see that kind of thing, you know. So, hey, man, that's just the way it is. And, you know, we saw it. We saw exactly what happened there. So, you know, but let me welcome my co-host out here, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. What's going on with you, Reggie? How you doing, bro?
Oh, doing good, OG. I've been listening to you cook while I make it to the crib.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to chime in on that I was speaking about thus far?
No, I'll just continue to roll as we roll.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so no, it's just, you know, basically the root of this particular topic that I have rolling at the moment is from Virgil Ortiz, you know, eyeballing Bud Crawford as a future opponent if he gets past Hooker. And, you know, I'm speaking about these guys. They, you know, when they call themselves looking at a fighter thinking that they might see something in that fighter that can make them that's advantageous to them. I've seen nothing in Ortiz's career thus far that he's faced on his dossier that will suggest that he may even be competitive with a guy like Bud. There's no one that he has fought that has boxing IQ, ring generalship, lateral movement, the ability to switch southpaw and orthodox, to fight on the inside, to box well from the outside, and that can, you know, give the angles and frustrate and do things. He hasn't faced anyone like that. So it's interesting that, you know, he's labeling or targeting, I should say, Bud as a guy. And, you know, if Hooker were more seasoned and more sharp and polished, I would say Hooker would be favored in this fight against him. But it's like Hooker does have some flaws that may show up in this fight that make me favor Ortiz against him. But Bud Crawford is no Mo Hooker, man. What are your thoughts on that, Reggie?
No, you're absolutely right. And this is just another young dude that's hungry, looking to make a name, look to make a mark for himself, and that's to go after the baddest dude within the division, one of the baddest dudes in the division. And I think it's just young, ambitious Virgil Ortiz, but Ortiz going to have to worry about this weight issue because he comes into a situation, he may not walk away as a champion if he can't make weight, he misses weight or something, but going in here against a Bud Crawford is a tall task for a young dude who hasn't fought that caliber fighter. And like you said, Hooker's about going to be the hugest step up he has, but there's no special effects, that high level of dynamics for as compared to what Bud will offer inside of a fight. So it's going to be a hard gauge for Virgil Ortiz. I still think Ortiz needs another solid fight to prove where he is, who he is in the division. If not, put him in there, let him drown. If he wants to go in there, he's talking that type of crap. If Bud can't get the fight, throw the dude up in there and let him see where he makes his mistakes at.
Yeah,
but I guarantee he'll regret it.
Yeah, and this may be a repeat, Reggie, of something that I saw back in the mid 80s. Okay, and I'll get to that in a moment. I just want to acknowledge a couple of the comments and people that have come into the building. We got Crawlface out there, says hello everyone. And Mr. Mechanical says, yeah, Stormybman Bud moving funny, but his skill set ain't no easy task to face. Absolutely. Bernard Burton is back. He says, salute Stormy in chat. Salute to you, Bernard Burton. Crawface says, cheers. Just found the channel recently and have been exploring the content. Okay, that's cool. He says, Stormy B Man, salute. What else we got out here? Okay, yeah, I'm caught up now. Thought it was a few more, but okay. Yeah, so what I saw in the mid 80s, Reggie, we had the big names in the middle and junior middleweight divisions. We had what's my man? Wilfredo Benitez. We had Marvin Hagler. We had Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, and these men fought, each other in great battles, right? But just underneath them start coming on guys like Frank Tate, Michael Nunn, Sambu Columbe, Mike McCallum, fighters who would carry that next wave. And I think with Earl, Terrence, Sean, Garcia, and Keith Thurman, they are in that position now because they're 30 or 30 plus. And these younger fighters like Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, maybe Josh Taylor and those guys, if they're going to move up, or Regis Prograis, if they move up, they'll be that next class that could kind of take the sport forward after some of these elder statesmen, iron out what they're going to do, try to make the money that they try to make or whatever, and be done, right? So it's like you could see that. But with Ortiz trying to say something about eyeballing Crawford, he got a world of problems in a fighter named Jerron Boots Ennis out there. You know what I'm saying? That's like, I'm telling you, that guy looks special, don't he? And it's like, who did he think he gonna have to face? And we gonna turn that heat up on him. You want to talk about Bud? Put Bud's name in your mouth. We gonna put Boots' name in your mouth, because Boots is the one. And he's the one that's talented enough that it's like you could see stardust when you look at this kid. Virgil is ordinary. He's very ordinary, particularly navigating around the sport where you see so many of these guys, but there's no room for them, Reggie. It's like, unless someone had a debilitating knockout punch or something like that, it's like there's no way for them to go. Because right now, believe it or not, there's a number of fighters who got some pretty decent boxing skills out there, but they just haven't fought one another. And once they start doing that, you're going to really be able to separate the guys who are marginal with the guys that are, going to that next level of the possibility of being special or something like that. What are your thoughts when I say that? And I tie it to like what happened in the 80s, the mid 80s.
My thoughts on that class, like the Boots, the Ortiz and all them, you're going to see a lot of them maneuvering around what we see at 135. And I don't think a lot of them are going to fight each other. They should be calling each other out. But they rather take what's, huge risks, huge step-up fights to where they're not so embarrassed by a defeat to a champion, but they should be looking to point targets on each other. And I think that's not going to happen, even if they do begin to take the torch. If Ortiz is to go in there, he defeats Bud, he's going to run away from Ennis. And what's to say Ennis doesn't run from him? So I don't know. I don't have too much confidence in these dudes challenging to be kind of the premier and more dominant guy in these divisions. We're going to see what we kind of see going on. And money is the determinant in a lot of this stuff, is the reason why they stay away from there. And that money determinant by being an undefeated fighter, because so many people buy into that ideal. The promoters buy into the ideal of it's greater at producing an undefeated fighter who's viewed as untouchable, unstoppable, just a class of his own. And that's the way they play with undefeated fighters. So they steer away from these risk and challenges. I think that's what Ortiz needs to be setting his sights on. He needs to knock out whatever is a top prospect because there's a lot of top prospect names within that 147 division that should be calling for each other. Because I don't know if any of them are ready for champions. I think Ennis may be 1 or 2 fights away from maybe trying to take a title challenge. But it's hard for me to determine. But I think we're going to see a lot of what we see with the young fighters of steering away from each other rather than fighting each other early in their careers. They probably try to save this stuff for last.
Yeah. Keep it going for a moment for me, Reggie. I'm trying to put a message in the chat for the brothers that's trying to click on some links here.
Oh, okay. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it, man. I don't know what we'll get as far as these two top level dudes who show a lot of promise. They show a great deal of promise, but will they campaign against one another? Will they display this level of talent against each other? Will they match it up? Can we get the mixing of the arts, do some MMA boxing style stuff, mixing up these two styles of fighting that they have? And I like Jaron Ennis. I think Jaron Ennis has a style that matches well against Virgil Ortiz. I think his style is more premier than what Virgil Ortiz is. Virgil Ortiz is a guy who likes to come into range. He likes to tear and rip at an opponent, but that doesn't benefit him. Him loading up on punches, he throws everything hard, and in between throwing punches like that, you leave yourself open. And Jaron Ennis is great at every aspect. He's super dynamic. Jaron Ennis can play counter if he wants to play counter. He's very gifted defensively. He has great movement. His transitions between offense and defense are brilliant. And he'll give Virgil Ortiz problems. But then again, he can't be playing around because he does get a little way too cocky and against an aggressive fighter because Virgil Ortiz fights with a level of anger, and he fights with a level of seriousness where it's no joking. There's no play within that ring with him inside that ring. And Ennis having any lapse of feeling that, oh, this guy can't hang with me, oh, I'm just clowning on him, and he falls asleep at one moment, marveling over, his separation and speed, skill, and talent, and get himself caught because Virgil's dangerous. I ain't gonna never take that away from him. He's dangerous, and that's always what gives him the chance inside of a matchup against anybody that's out there. Except I don't know about these champions, but who knows? And then you got the other kid. You got that European kid, Stanojevic, whatever his name is. Very, very strong kid. Very disciplined kid. He's going to be a threat out there. You got Jamal James, who's campaigning close to becoming a title contender. There's a lot of tough challenges out here for these young dudes as they look promising, but when you see them move up and they come against these dudes who have been here before, their experience, they haven't lost too many steps as they haven't aged out that much, and they can still give a young fighter these huge challenges. And it could be hard for a young fighter that has only been inside of fights to where they're stopping everything, to where they get drawn into long, drawn-out fights, and they start having to think and figure these things out. That more experienced fighters going to know where to take them and know where to frustrate them because they were young fighters at once and come into difficult situations. And probably, even though they have to poker face it, they knew how their minds probably operated in those moments as a younger fighter. So now as a more experienced and aged fighter, you know what to do to get into that whole psychology of this young fighter and begin to break them. And there's some of these top level dudes are dangerous. Even you guys, I think, is going to be a tough guy out there. Even if Earl Spencer's to fight you guys, I think everybody at 147 are those type of people up in that division. But that's my thoughts. You back, OG?
Yeah, I'm back. And let me say this. You know who's a dangerous fighter, Reggie? A hungry fighter. A fighter with ambition. And guess what? We don't know who those guys are. That's why these men need to start fighting each other, because contenders are not even fighting one another now. That's the worst part about it. Contenders are not even facing off. So it's like everyone who's fighting is fighting a showcase fight. Think about it. A few weeks ago, when we watched Caleb Truax and Caleb Plant, that was a showcase fight for Caleb Plant. You know, Truax was not going to knock him out. He was not going to, do anything fearful and put him in a situation where it's like, whoa, Caleb better watch out tonight, No, he wasn't. You see? And that guy Yildirim, when he fought Canelo, it was not a fight that was a threat for Canelo. Why are we continuing to see these fights over and over again? And these fighters are content with that because what's happening is the lack of competitiveness makes the sport look like mediocre. But there are some great fights out there that could be made. Just like, who would have thought, and this is a great segue because I'm going to go into our Thunderous Top 10 in a moment. Who would have thought that Oscar Valdez would have done what he did against Miguel Berchelt? That's a perfect example of it. We had a hot young fight right there with these fighters. Berchelt was a champion for a bit. Valdez was the guy that's coming along. And, man, he put on a great performance. You can't take it away from him. As many of us who had Berchelt favored going in, you just cannot always give insight into what the guy might have inside of him until it comes out. And that's what's great about this sport because, as my man Kurt Sugar likes to say, that square ring is a circle of truth. It's right there. That's where you're going to find it. And as long as guys try to stay outside of that, talking tough in social media, running around, giving these interviews, showing more venom for people like us who are content creators and try to talk about the sport, they show more venom for us than any opponent that they get in the ring with. It's ridiculous, So that's that right there. It's a great lead in, and so as I was just saying, we're gonna talk about the Thunderous Top 10. But I'll tell you, Reggie, I put the list together. You don't have to agree with it. I know we've disagreed on certain people and their positioning and everything, but given what we have here to work with, why don't you tonight, I'll let you, because you're just coming in and get your feet wet here, give me your thoughts and, go from 10 to 1, and give us your thoughts on the names that you see on the list and anything you have to offer with number 10, Valdez, who I was just speaking of. You can elaborate on that.
No, I think he earned his way in there. Going out there, coming in as a challenger, and taking it away from a champion who whose video I watched that touched on the assessment of that fight, even including myself. I thought Berchelt was going to get Valdez out of there. And based on struggles I seen Valdez in, wars I seen him in there, this moment was that big for him. He went in there to capture it. Wasn't nothing going to stop him. But he's also a dude who will fight through adversity. Being here, he had a broke jaw in a fight, fought through that. Going into his last fight against a last-minute replacement, being dropped, being outworked, outclassed in that fight, and still battle his way through to get the stoppage in that fight. It ain't over till that fat lady sing, which I mean the ref, but this dude, he showed tremendous heart, and I overlooked that because I don't know, sometimes you get blinded, but you just gotta look into the real spirit of a dude when he steps into that mode of locking in and really becoming a warrior, like some people want. Some people will stay. You're gonna have to kill me in this ring. And Valdez is one of these dudes, and he went in there and he beat the crap out of a champion, a dangerous champion. So he definitely earned it. And I mean, you got to tip your hat off to him, most definite.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and move on through this list? Starting from 10 going up.
Oh, my brother Better Beef is in there tomorrow, and I think he should have been higher, but then again, he hasn't been super active. But this is one of my favorite fighters out here, and I don't got too many favorite fighters because I respect this dude. He reminds me of the UFC fighter I respect. I respect these dudes out of this region of Russia, and that's being Artur Beterbiev, same way I respect Khabib Nurmagomedov. These are stand-up dudes inside and out the ring. They stand up for a purpose, and they get business done. If you know who Khabib is, those who follow the UFC, you know what Khabib stands for. The discipline of these dudes, they ain't these, brash type dudes. They're not flashy dudes. They don't soil in the praise that they get. They're still humble as hell. They're real humble as hell, but they're straight up killers. And Beterbiev is that dude, and he goes into a fight tomorrow. I'm hoping he comes out victorious, and we'll see what happens. Sees if that opponent comes in there. Hopefully the opponent comes in there with heart. Even though I like Beterbiev, I want his opponent to come in there and put up a great challenge, because Beterbiev is a dude who goes down there and breaks these fighters down. Very, very strong dude, but no man is invincible. So anything can happen. But I like Beterbiev. I like to see him higher, but he ain't active enough, so I got to keep it real. So I wouldn't think to put Valdez ahead of Beterbiev just for what he accomplished. Monster Inoue. I will put Shakur Stevenson much lower. Then I'll put Shakur at number 10, and I'll probably have Valdez up at 8, Beterbiev at 9. Monster Inoue, I will have where Shakur is. Monster Inoue, I didn't believe into the hype. Wasn't buying into that until watching this guy. And Monster Inoue is really that dude. But once again, it's because of the discipline and the school of boxing that these guys come from. Just having that discipline, they're not distracted, man. That's the only thing that separates American fighters from a lot of these dudes is the distractions that we have. You can send an Instagram model to American fighters, and her showing a little bit of cake will lose these dudes. Put a bunch of them in the club. They forget to show up to practice. I mean, so many distractions that the highly talented fighters we have here, these other international dudes. That's why I like seeing these international dudes compete. I ain't caught up on just being an American engaged fighters. I want to see the brothers do their thing, but when I see a fighter that's going to do his shit, I got to rock with him. So I like Monster Inoue, and watching his fights, brilliant. Now Shakur is going to definitely probably be at the top 3, guaranteed, man. As long as he don't face any distractions within the sport. The kid is super, 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 super talented, on top of having super, super, super talented mentors. He's surrounded himself around the proper people within the sport. It don't get no better than Andre Ward. It don't get no better than Terrence Crawford. And they ensure they treat this kid like a little brother. And they have the best of interest for this dude. He's been gaining so much that he's in there training. What's the kid out of Chicago? He's training. What's his name? Walking the ring with the pillow. He was his coach for a dang fight.
Yeah,
a coach.
Absolutely. I forget the guy's name, but yeah, it was great to see him working as a cornerman.
Right, and giving out the plan and seeing what he's seeing and passing this on to the dude. That was some brilliant stuff. And even in that fight, it wasn't like the dude was in there against an easy opposition, because he had to battle back and they had to make the adjustment. They made the adjustment for him to work his way back up. I don't know if he got a draw or if he ended up winning that fight, but they battled their way up, making the adjustment. So that was brilliant right there. Jamal, where we at? Gervonta Davis. Most definite, man. But hopefully Gervonta is back up in this ring. They have to put him back in this ring. It's starting to become too long since he did he fight Santa Cruz this year? Or was that last year?
Who? I think that was in December.
In December, yeah, it's gonna start dragging out. They need to hurry up and get Tank back up in that ring. They need a matter of fact. Tank does have that 140 fight. I forgot about that, but most definite, man. Tank is definitely a guy on this list. He has delivered. Can't take nothing away from him. It's just the only outside thing is his level of discipline, even though he hasn't suffered a defeat. Can't take that away from him. So yeah, most definitely, I rock with Tank being in there. We got Josh Taylor. He's one of the few European fighters from over in the UK, from that region of Europe that I rock with, because dude is really the real deal. He's the real deal. He has shown that. He's accomplished. We've seen him go through that tournament with great competition in that tournament. And he's a guy that came up standing tall. And I was always hearing people bringing up his names, and I started checking him out. Like, this dude can really fight. He doesn't fight in any of the styles that those dudes fighting over there. He can change things up. He's a guy who has multiple gears in a fight. He's not one-dimensional, and he digs deep. That's the thing I like about Josh Taylor. He digs deep, and he showed that in that Pro Grace fight. He can dig deep. He's willing to battle, willing to bang. He can box. He can change every aspect in that fight. He's rough in there as well. So I definitely like that one. Earl Spence, most definitely. But it's time for Spence to get back in the damn ring as well. I think it's that time. I think he fought in December as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about time because the months are flying by. We're almost in April already. They're going to, before you know it, they'll let 7 months pass by. But I think it's about that time for him to get a fight scheduled, get up in this ring, and it's time for him to go. Who was that? Jermell. I doubted Jermell for so long, OG. I used to think I was doubting Jermell because I was like, man, he's going to come up against these other level fighters. And the fighters who I was putting him, who I thought was going to give him issues, were giving him issues. But it showed the heart of this dude. This dude got dog, tremendous dog. He digs deep. He's a fighter. This dude is the true spirit of a dang fighter. And you got to rock with that. Jermell wants to fight everybody who's out there. He even want to fight Reporter. He want to fight you on YouTube if you talk about him. He want to fight you if you had his fight. The dude just wants to fight. And he displays it. And the win columns show it. The defeat that he suffered has made him more of a driven fighter. And that's what it is. Even like I was listening to Canelo talk about where somebody brought up to his defeat to Floyd Mayweather, and he was stating it wasn't a loss. It was a teaching lesson. It was a lesson. And even in that defeat from Jermell, it was a lesson for him. He didn't like the way it feels, especially, top level competitive A-type personalities. They don't like suffering defeat. They don't like the way it feels because they get emotional behind it. And all it's going to do is either break you or make you. And questionable defeat, made Charlo that much more of a dangerous fighter. Even if he's behind, he's going to find a way to battle through. He's going to find a way to battle all the way through. He can, as a matter of fact, he probably can be, and to be honest, he can probably campaign in those 15-round eras. And that's, he can take some fighters deep. But I mean, you can't take nothing away. I don't get caught up in all that resume talk, but it's the results. If people talking about the resume he has, the results, he's doing what he's supposed to do against those guys. If people feel about that about the level of opposition, he ain't going to the decisions with them. He's stopping them, and they're not matching up with this dude. Bud is who he is, and I gotta give him that. I don't get caught up in the Bud situation. I hate it though. I hate what's going on. But when he gets in that ring, you put whatever. If you ain't up to that level with him, it's gonna show in that ring, and he's proven it. And you gotta give him the credit for that. Everyone's been stopped at 147. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and that great sentiments, man. Great sentiments. That's why I wanted to let you, go through the men that are on the list tonight. And by no means is this like solid as far as etched in stone or concrete or anything like that. But what this is the Thunderous Top 10 for those who are new to the channel and may have been new to the Thunderous Top 10. It's a list of 10 fighters who happen to be tremendously impactful on the sport at this present time. And as we see, the men that we have on this list, they are tremendously impactful at this time. These guys have done some things in the sport that opened your eyes. Some of them, the ones who are around the top 4, they've done it consistently enough that they've earned that merit of separation. The others have kicked the door in, so to speak, with performances that have made you, sit up in your seat, so to speak, and be like, oh, okay, let me see this guy now. That's why, like Reggie was saying about Tank Davis in particular, if he could get more active, because we think he can do what he does on a consistent basis, but fighting once a year or once every 18 or 15 months or something like that That's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous, because what happens is he builds you up to that. Boom, he has that performance. You're like, wow, I can't wait to see him again. And then you're seeing all these other fighters, but not him. And you almost forget about the guy because he's so inactive. And the thing about that is when you're trying to give support to someone, but they don't even put forward the effort to keep themselves in the public eye. It's very difficult to have sensibility in your support with that. It's like, that's ridiculous. But again, the Thunderous Top 10 is a list of fighters who are very much impactful for the sport. Some of them, like I said, that top 4, they deserve that where they are because they've done it, and they've done it consistently over a period of time. Everyone else is kind of like jockeying. And next week, someone could get booted out of that from 5 through 10, because what happens is if we have a magnificent performance this weekend by one of the fighters who happens to be Artur Beterbiev, if Beterbiev has a spectacular performance, and I'm not talking about he go out there, hit the guy and knock him out in one round, but I'm saying if he, he's had a long layoff, Reggie. He's had the COVID situation. He had an injury. This fight that he was supposed to fight has been pushed back like 3 times, I think. He was originally supposed to fight on ESPN in October, with all of those fights that they were doing back then, remember? So that's how long it's been for him, because he was training for that when he had an injury. So impactful performances, like if he went out there, he put his punches together and he broke this guy down in a real workmanlike performance, or just showed a dominating situation where we know he can hit, because my goodness, that man got wrecking balls for fists. But it's the way you take your opponents out and things like that you have to look at, because you have to figure that they didn't bring this opponent in there to beat him. You understand? Again, another showcase fight. But how do you show us your stuff? That's what it's going to be. That's the aspect of things that I want to acknowledge when it comes to the Thunderous Top 10. I'll take a moment and go to the chat. We got Taylor Bell out there in the super chat. Appreciate your work for us, the channel there, Taylor Bell. He's out there with a super chat donation. And then we got my man Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens with a super chat donation. So yeah, you guys, I noticed that nobody likes to, support the channel in that manner. It's like, in order for Stormy to do the best he can do, super chats are appreciated. I ain't shaking nobody down, but, show some love, pick up some merchandise or something like that, because you guys have no idea how hard I work behind the scenes to try to bring you quality content, man. I'm not doing what everybody else does. Stormy is doing things his own way. And it's like, I try to be original, you know what I mean? But also at the same time, give you depth when it comes to boxing, because I think that that's my lane. So, but I appreciate anything and everything anyone's done, but just, you don't have to be shy. Because it's like everything that I do and take in, it goes right back, it's reinvested in the channel. So that's how I do it around here, man. So but yeah, that's the story of the Thunderous Top 10. So for anyone out there that's like, oh, I don't like Stormy's pound for pound list, it's not the same thing, because pound for pound, you're actually talking about the fighters, their achievements, this and that, specifically, and how good they are in relation to their contemporaries, so forth and so on. But the Thunderous Top 10 is someone who's impacting the sport in a tremendous manner. That makes all the difference in the world, because that guy don't have to be the best fighter in the world, but he might be the guy who people come out to see, because when he performs, he gonna give it, even if he getting his butt whooped or whatever. You understand? So that's what we're talking about the impact that a fighter like Arturo Gatti would have always been on the Thunderous top 10 because that young man used to just do his thing and be in Rocky-like performances every other fight. You understand? So that's an example of what I'm trying to say. Let's see. We got Eric R out there. He says, Stormy B Man 100. How these promoters don't understand the disservice they are doing the fighter and the sport is unnerving, to say the least. Yeah, so a lot of the promoters today, it seems like, because, you know, Don King was really a huge promoter and he controlled the sport for a generation, okay? But let's say it like this. They haven't taken what was bad about what happened during King's reign and try to turn that into something positive for themselves and build on that, plus the merits of what he did very well. They don't look at it like that. It's like every man for himself. Everybody is trying to, you know, throw their line in the sea to reel in the big fish. But you don't understand. Sometimes you have to cultivate what's in the sea by feeding it and everything, and you get them, and then you get them on the hook. One thing Don King did that you just absolutely don't see right now is Don King would put fights on network TV early on. That's what he did. Then he moved to the cable channels and stuff like that, right? And that kind of helped take fights off of regular TV. But Don would load his cards with talent. He wouldn't have a bunch of guys just knocking out guys in 1 round and 2 rounds and things like that. He would be pitting champions against champions, contenders against contenders, contenders against champions, you know, prospects against contenders. And through that marriage of promotion, he was able to carve out stars. Okay. And that's what these guys don't understand. And when you do it that way, you can have longevity because you've built the brand. You've actually put the stones down that people now can cross the bridge. You understand? That's what Don did. And he don't get enough credit for that. You just hear about bad things or whatever. All of the promoters are bad because anytime you're taking such a percentage out of someone's purse, that's ridiculous right there. I don't like the fact that these guys sometimes get too much of the money. You know, that's just not fair. So I just wanted to say that part. What are your thoughts on that, Reggie? What I just said?
No, I agree with you, OG. I agree with every single bit that you stated.
Yeah, so, you know, that I'm just saying, you know, because there's so much room for them to do it a better way than what they do. And it's just not happening right now. But I wish that we could see that happen. Let's see, we got here. I'm checking my phone because I got Cash App here. We got Cash App from my man, Mr. Pac-Man 216. He says, for supporting the channel. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man. Really appreciate that. Also, let's see. We got my man Mike 202. He says, we appreciate your work, Sensei. Thank you so much for that, Mike 202. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. You one of the brothers that's always out there hanging and supporting the channel. Hustler's Home is out there in that super chat. Says, thanks for holding down, OG. You're a classic man. I appreciate that, Hustler's Home, and welcome to the channel. I've seen you out there for a couple of shows. Hope that I can continue to have you come back, man, because we're trying to do the good things here on the Stormy B Man channel, man. We really are. And my man Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, he helps me tremendously here. And as you guys see, we're a great tandem because even though we don't always agree on everything or whatever, we still bring quality insight to what we cover here. And I really appreciate those who hang around to listen to what we have to say. So, yeah, with that said, Reggie, let's get into what's coming up this weekend, man. We got the Zone is opening it up. We got some fights this weekend. We got this Lawrence Okoli, and he's taking on this guy Glowacki. And I've seen Glowacki on some undercards before. And Okoli, I saw him when he last fought on DAZN. It was a few months back. He had a very good performance. He appears to, you know, Reggie, he's one of those guys who's kind of like John Jones. He's kind of lanky and stuff, but he's got some power, Reggie, at that cruiserweight division. Have you seen him fight before, Okoli?
Yeah. I think I watched his last fight.
Yeah. So this fight is coming up tomorrow night, and they're looking to get it on, man. And I expect the leather to be flying. Let's just say it like that in this fight here, man, because these two guys, their styles may mesh for some action. Let's just put it that way, because I've seen both of them fight. Excuse me, and I like what we're seeing with this particular kind of matchup. So, what are your thoughts going in on this one?
Yeah, I don't got too many thoughts on it because I don't know nothing about Velasquez. I don't know too much about him. Okoli, he's the dude that they're building up. I know he's pretty tall for that division. I think he 6'6" or something like that. I know he's a pretty tall dude. He's the dude they're trying to showcase out the UK. He got a nice following behind him. But this other guy may come in there and be like, he's coming to spoil the show. He ain't in here to make this guy look good. But I don't know too much about the other guy at all.
Yeah. Well, I think that I think that, yeah, he's about 6'4", I think. He is a tall guy, kind of on that, like I said, on that lanky side. But he got some pop in that punch. Sometimes it's funny how those little skinny dudes be the ones who could really hit, ain't it, Reggie? And the muscular dudes don't have that much power. It's always been like that in boxing, though. Look at Tommy Hearns, man. Tommy Hearns was as skinny as a rail when he was out there, called the Motor City Cobra, just knocking guys stiff, man. And, you know, it's amazing to see that in boxing. And it continues to this day. I want to take a quick moment and go to the Super Chats. We got a couple of them. We got Bernard Burton out there in the Super Chat. He says, love the contents of the boxing talk. That's why I tune in. It's all love, brothers. Appreciate you, Bernard Burton, man. Really do. Appreciate that. Hustler Home back in there. He says, I'm going to be here. Y'all got jewels. Appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that. And Crawlface is saying, respect. Glad I found the channel. We're glad you found the channel as well, man, because like I said, the more that you guys come out and, you know, you're out there and you're showing that you're interested in what we have to offer, the more we feel good about presenting it to you. And don't forget, Reggie, to drop your link in the in the chat as well, so that people can, you know, come over to your channel and be very consistent. Because we also have post-fight show, Reggie and I, that we do together after the fights on a Saturday night, and sometimes on late Friday night. We'll push the chop session back to later in the evening if they're valuable fight cards on Friday night. So we'll have a Friday night chop session where it's kind of a post-fight show as well. And then we do the post-fight show on Saturday nights after the fight cards that have run the gamut for the day. So don't forget to come back and check us out tomorrow night after all the fights are done. But yeah, Reggie, don't forget to put your link for your channel in the chat as well.
Okay.
So, but yeah, man, let me see. Eric R had a comment. He said, yeah, they do everything backwards. The fighter puts on a performance, and instead of riding the wave and pushing them publicly to the next fight, they let a year go by and have to start all over again. Man, doesn't that suck? That is absolutely horrible, man, that they do that, because when you look at Tank Davis's victory over Leo Santa Cruz, the first thing I said when we did our show after that, I said, man, they need to have him back in the ring by January. You know what I mean? We're already in March, and Tank is already done put weight back on and everything. You see, they squandered the opportunity. And Reggie, he didn't even have to come back against a Leo Santa Cruz level opponent. He could have just came back against an opponent to help him stay busy and stay closer to that fight weight that he looks so formidable at, and it keeps him in the public eye. Not on social media, but in the public eye for doing it and getting it done in the ring, right?
Right, most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they just totally blew that, bro. That all that conditioning. Because remember, going into the Santa Cruz fight, they were talking about him where it was like, oh, is he gonna make weight? Is he gonna make weight? Right? That was the conversation. And Santa Cruz's chances were contingent upon him not necessarily being as effective at his weight and everything if he had to really drain himself or if he had trouble on the scale or whatever. But he comes out and he puts on such a stellar performance. How do you squander that and not have him right back in there in a couple of months to keep him, boom, lay it down. He says he's like a little Mike Tyson. Well, the little Mike Tyson, when he was doing his thing, he was fighting like one year he fought 30 times. You know what I'm saying? It's like Mike was busy, bro. And getting guys out of there in a couple of rounds, that ain't no work. And why, look, and I say this as a coach and a trainer, Reggie, and I've said this before. Think about it like this. Why are guys having all of these camps? And, when you have camps, you could have an 8-week camp. You could have a 12-week camp. It depends on, who you're fighting, the timing and all of that, right? But it's like you have weeks and weeks and weeks of sparring, right, in your camp. You're still taking damage. You're still getting punched in the head in sparring in the gym, regardless if you've got headgear on or whatever. Because we know for a fact that there's not a lot of teaching going on in the gyms of today, but we know that there's a lot of fighting going on in the gyms. Guys are trying to best each other in sparring, where they're supposed to be honing their craft and working on their craft, right? So that's damage being done to you. But do you realize the more that you fight, you don't have to have as much sparring. If you're keeping your condition and you're keeping yourself in shape, you're sharp. And so you could fight like every 3 months or so. Your camps don't have to be as long. Huh? That fight that he had, what did it went? 5 rounds? The fight against Santa Cruz? So a turnaround, a turnaround in January would have been great because it's the first of the year, just after the holidays, right? And then you're setting up for the rest of the year where you could have a pick and choose. You could even select one of those dates that national pride dates that fighters like to fight on and stuff like that. You understand? You could set yourself up really nice. But no, they're not thinking about it this way. And this is why I say it all the time, where when we talk about this stuff and we put it together, it's like there's so much a better way it could be done. So much a better way. I want to go to the chat for a moment. We had a couple of comments, Reggie, there. There were nice complimentary comments. We got Mr. Mechanical says, Tuesday tussle and Friday night chop. Always great content. Salute to you, Mr. Mechanical, for those kind words, brother. Taylor Bell says, hit the like and make sure you are subscribed. Eric R says, smash the like button and share the channel. Yes, sir. You can always share Stormy's content, and you don't have to worry about if your kids can listen to it or whatever, even though this is not made for kids. But it's just you don't have to worry about things getting out of control and worry about the content being disruptive for your household. Let's see. Eric R says, smash. I read that. And Taylor Bell says, this channel brings it. Every episode. I found it a few months ago and I rarely miss a video or a live stream. I think, it just jumped on me. He says, I think I missed one video live stream in a few months. I appreciate that, Taylor Bell, man. Really do. Crawlface says, Eric, I agree. What's also not helping is that it's become like the norm. So just a lot of fans just accept it. That's right. And that's why Bob Arum says things about you like fans are like rocks. You could kick them wherever you want. And then he comes back and says things like F you. You see, that's what he thinks of you. So you should show him what you think of him and his promotional group by not supporting his content. Eric R. says, I made this statement before. Sugar Ray Leonard was already a first ballot Hall of Famer when he was Terrence Crawford's age, and we still waiting on him and Earl. Yup, can't say it better myself, man. And Taylor Bell back in the super chat says, to all new viewers, Stormybman brings a certain depth, a certain angle of boxing commentary you will not find anywhere else. Thank you again for that, and that is actually a fact. Crawlface says, big issue, not too much focus on records. In many cases, a loss is treated as a near career ender, etc. Crazy. Yeah, man. That's why, Crawlface, if you listen to this show from the beginning, when I spoke about losses are a part of life. When you are born, you come out of the womb, you're already on path for a loss in life. You're already, because the most inevitable is death. That's a loss. Someone no longer here, taken away. And we have losses like that every day. And everyone can tell you about it because everyone knows someone that they've lost. So that's just one example. Okay. But also, when you suffer defeats in life, when you suffer setbacks, the whole purpose of it, it may not seem like it when it transpires for you, is for you to come up with a means to overcome. Okay? Now, of course, you can't overcome death, but we're talking about you might lose your job. What you going to do? Just sit around and not work no more? Or you're going to go out there, try to become an entrepreneur or try to find something else or whatever. You're going to try to pull yourself out of that circumstance and be better, right? So that's what that is. So as these fighters, you can't walk around in a glass bubble. You understand? Because somebody going to break the glass. Eventually, it happens. But that also gives us a window into who you are, because how you handle your loss. Will you be able to come back and be the same confident, arrogant dude? Or will you now be hesitant and in a little bit, shy of trying not to, do it again? Hector Camacho was a tremendous fighter, man, at lightweight. He had blazing hand speed. He had great footwork. He was a personality with charisma and everything, a bit of a basket case, okay? But a couple of punches by Edwin Rosario turned that man's career totally around. He never became that guy he was before he fought Edwin Rosario again. He became a different type fighter, a fighter who looked to stay out of danger and harm's way, a fighter that didn't look to engage anymore, didn't look to really go for the knockout unless he was really sure he had you. And it changed because he was very entertaining at first. His entertainment after that came with his wardrobe and everything that he wore to the ring, because a lot of his fights were boring after that. He just didn't put himself in a position to be an engaging factor out there. So it's like you have to look at it, for what it is. You know what I mean? And that was one of those people, Hector Camacho, that you could have as an example for that. Hector did that, man, and it was just, Edwin Rosario hit him, and after that he just was not the same guy anymore. You know what I mean? Salute to Brent Fox out there in that Cash App. He says, for just showing support. Appreciate that, bro. Really do. Appreciate that. And let's see, I think I had one more out there. Yeah, okay, I got that. I covered up. But yeah, so Reggie, tomorrow when we see Okoli, I think it's going to be another situation where he's drawn into a match. I think these guys are going to hit each other and everything, but I think he's going to prevail. I do think that he's one of those guys that's over there in the UK that they're really looking to get behind. In the cruiserweight division, since Alexander Usyk has left it behind as a former undisputed, you know, it needs somebody. And this is one guy that they're putting their hopes on. I don't know who we have in the Americas that is in cruiserweight right now that may be formidable for him. But this is going to be a showcase for him, I believe, again. Any final thoughts on him in this fight?
No, I think they got him in here in a safe one. It just depends on what this opponent's going to do. But like I said, I don't know too much about him. But I do see some vulnerabilities in Okoli. I don't think he's that great of a guy as in that division. I don't think he's that great of the guys campaign up there. Matter of fact, he should have been in that tournament. I don't remember seeing him in that tournament with the other top cruiserweights that were out there. So now he's making his kind of introduction. Is many of the guys in the cruiserweights have exited that tournament, and I don't see him campaigning against those guys who came up out of that side of that cruiserweight tournament.
Yeah, and I do believe that he is definitely one of those guys that you know, he's vulnerable. He's a lot like Hooker, believe it or not, like a bigger version. You know, you could see openings, you could see vulnerabilities, but, you know, until he gets in there with someone that's going to compete with him at the level of where he is, that's what it's going to be. You're going to see him, you know, in having moderate success. Eric R. is out there. He says, at Stormybman, I asked Paulie, the former boxer, why doesn't the fighters today fight anywhere near close like the fighters in the past? And his answer is because they're not nearly as active. That's one of the reasons. Absolutely. Absolutely one of the reasons. And Eric R. says, and to some fathers, when you come out of the womb, that would be taken as a loss, so to speak. He's joking. Okay. Who else we got? Taylor Bell says, yes, it seems almost all current fighters are too worried about their loss record. No, did Floyd's 50-0 career influence or set the standard of excellence? Floyd was an exception and anomaly. Yeah. Then we have Eric Thomas Moreland is out there. Says, salute family, salute to you, Thomas Moreland. And Eric R. says, losses teach you how to go to a place where your opponent may have never been to win. If Ray Leonard hadn't lost to Duran, he might not have beaten Hearns. Absolutely. Kurt Sugar talks about that all the time. Crawface says, of course, lots to talk about, but one real poor vision from promotions, not seeing the value of a series of fights from two fighters, the rematches, the extra drama from it, the war. Yeah, listen, great point there, Crawface, because a few years ago, we had a situation where you had two undefeated heavyweight champions, one unified champion in Anthony Joshua and one WBC champion in Deontay Wilder. And those guys, that fight was the hottest ticket in boxing. If they would have fought one another, there's no guarantee one would have won over the other, whoever you favor, because they both now have taken a loss. But at the same time, at that time when it was at its apex, it was the type of fight that should have been made, and you could have possibly got a couple of fights out of it. If it were a great situation and a close decision, or someone stopped the other guy, then you have a rematch, and then you find out that the rematch is every bit as good because somebody might have came back and repeated, or the other guy might have come back and got revenge, and then you have a setup for a rubber match. And it's like, that's what drives the sport. It's the thing that keeps the sport thriving. You can make great fights, but great fights go to another level when the fighters rematch one another. Because sometimes one guy just might not have been at his best. He might have underestimated. It could be a number of reasons. Then the other guy comes back in the next fight and totally turns the tables around. And then in a rubber match, it just becomes a thing of whether they're so familiar that one has to provide the separation between the two. If they just go in content or wary of one another, it could be a situation where it's a tough pick. But somebody usually says, you know what, I'm going balls out on this one. Huh? It's like the third fight between Holyfield and Bo. You know, that third fight was a war. Those two guys, you know, Holyfield dropped Bo, Bo knocked Holyfield out. It's like, man, it was a great fight. And that came behind two other pretty darn good fights. The second fight was marred by that situation with Fan Man. But we're talking about, you know, a trilogy that's still up there in the annals of boxing history as a pretty darn good trilogy. And fight fans were entertained. Anything you got to say about that, Reggie?
No, I have nothing on that.
Yeah. So tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow afternoon, we're going to see the return of Artur Beterbiev, the guy who's on the Thunderous top 10 list, and he's hanging on by a thread. He better perform, otherwise he may fall out of that Thunderous top 10, Reggie. I've been high on the guy since I saw him take apart Gavaskit, man, because Gavaskit had a victory over Adonis Stevenson, right? And in his victory over Adonis Stevenson, he kind of beat Stevenson up, you know, and it was looking like he could be the man at that division. But when he faced this man here, I call him like Russian steel, because this guy, Beterbiev, Reggie, he has power in both hands, but he reminds me of the fighters of the old days, like in the black and white film days, because he doesn't do anything particularly, you know, flashy or outstanding or whatever, but he's workmanlike. And then when he hits people, he gets results. It's not like he got one punch anesthetizing power, but it's like when he hits people, he hurts them. You can see Gavaskit resignation in the corners in between rounds when he was talking to Teddy Atlas. He didn't want no more. After being out there for like 3 rounds, you could see it was like it was wearing on him. He didn't want to go back out there. And that's what this guy does. If you don't have it inside with the old ticker and you don't have the ability to be able to take some, he going to get you up out of there. It's just a matter of which round it's going to be. But he's getting older himself. He's in his mid-30s. So I hope that he can step on the gas and get beyond these injuries he's been having, because I would like to see more of him. I know you were high on him when he didn't want to have that fight over in China, where he displayed that he's a man of principles. What are your thoughts?
Oh, man, like I say, man, he's one of my favorite fighters out there. If it's a fighter that I do like, it's him, just based on principle and what he does inside that ring. And like he did against Bostic, he's a dude who breaks down these fights. I think he stopped every opponent he's been in there. And Bostic was a big statement, because he forced Bostic to quit. Bostic was being forced to go out there and fight, and he ended up giving it up to one, giving it up. Like, forget what you're talking about, Teddy Atlas. And Teddy Atlas is one of these dudes who don't believe in a fighter quitting, and for his fighter not to be able to give 1 ounce of it, it just shows what this dude is about. Bostic's known for a high volume fighter. He boxed pretty well. He's active, and Beterbiev beat every single ounce of it up out of him. And matter of fact, put him in the hospital as well. He's a punishing type dude. And but once again, I forgot about that, the injuries. So there's that aspect that he's getting older, and these injuries are starting to mount up. So we'll see how well his body can hold up in this fight, and if this fighter can withstand the pressure he puts on him. But the other good thing about Beterbiev, he's a hard-hitting fighter who's not looking to be a knockout artist, so he can box. But that's my thoughts on him.
Yeah, and it's important, like I said, if these guys get active and get in great condition and they're fighting, you know, especially the guys who get the knockouts, Reggie, because I understand fighting, you know, you have a fight camp, you fight 12 rounds, you go in the distance, you know, that's really tough on your body. But when you're getting out there and you're getting guys out of there in 2 or 3 rounds or 1 to 3 rounds, you know, to me, I'm like, add another fight to your schedule for the year when you get those kind of victories, because that ain't no work. But not only that, if you add another camp, you add another fight, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a camp. You can already be ready to go. You understand? You're still getting paid. Why not use that conditioning in its proper fashion? It's like these guys don't understand that. I cannot put that emphasis on it enough. They just don't understand. When you spend that whole camp of weeks sparring, training, getting your weight down and all of that, now you're ready to fight, and the fight is over in a couple of rounds or inside the distance. What do you do with that conditioning? You go right back and fall right off the wagon? No, you take a couple weeks off, let your body heal and everything, and you get back in there. Use that conditioning. You don't have to do as much sparring in the gym. You keep your running, you keep your floor exercises, and you get all that stuff in, and you take you another match. It could even be a guy who is of lesser value now, right? And I don't like to say lesser value, but not highly is ranked, right? But it's staying busy, staying active, so that when you do go in there with somebody good, it's like you're ready. They're talking about the possibility that a fight may take place between Charlo and Benavidez. Well, Charlo hasn't fought since he fought, Derevyanchenko. That's well over a year ago. But if he fights whoever he's going to fight now, and then fights a second fight or whatever, he could go right into a fight with Benavidez. Of course, he wouldn't want to go right into a fight with Benavidez right now, meaning when the time could line up for them to fight, because he's been inactive. But whose fault is that? It's not ours. So why should we listen to him complain? Get your butt in the ring. You talk all of that stuff. You get on social media and all that. You're a bad guy and all of that. Be a bad guy in the doggone ring where you get paid for it, bro. That's all I got to say about that, Reggie. But let's get down. We got to close out the show. The last subject is to talk about your man, Mo Hooker, going in there against Virgil Ortiz Jr. Now, this guy, he kind of messed up on the scales, Reggie. Maybe he was looking too much at Terrence Crawford or something. I don't know. But turns out that he came in quarter of a pound over or something like that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I heard this is his third time missing his first attempt on the scale, so he's having some weight issues there. And you want to go into thoughts on the fight?
Yeah. We're gonna talk about the fight now.
Yeah, my thoughts on Maurice Hooker is I'm not too high on Maurice Hooker. I just don't see Maurice Hooker is that dude. And I think he's moving up to this division. I think, was Maurice at a lower weight? Wasn't he at 140 or something?
Yeah, he was at 140, and he got stopped there too, Reggie.
Yeah, against Jose Ramirez.
Yeah,
who was beating the crap out of him, and I predicted the fight to go that way. And then in his fight before that, that fight that they selected for him a fight ago was not a true fight. That wasn't nothing to prepare him for what he's about to go into, moving up to this division. That was I don't know what the heck they found in that opponent. That was really an opponent who came in there to lay down, and it did no benefit for Maurice Hooker. So he hasn't gotten any true rounds at this division, and now he's going against a young, hungry fighter. But then again, he is experienced at a lower division. Let's see if he can use experience and ability. But if he couldn't handle Ramirez pressuring him, stepping forward on him, then he's definitely not going to be able to stop it from Virgil Ortiz. And Virgil Ortiz probably going to go in here and destroy him, because I don't see Hooker as a fighter that can keep a fighter up off of him. He's too slow. His punches are too slow. His punches lay out there too long. And I'm just predicting for Ortiz to go in here and just beat to annihilate Hooker, just from Hooker's style. He, like I say, he's not fast enough. His footwork ain't that great. He backs up too much from pressure, and Ortiz just gonna walk forward on him, and it's just gonna be an easy picking for Ortiz. And this dude's kind of straight up. He fights tall, from what I remember, and it ain't gonna be a good thing in this contest tomorrow. I don't know how much Bomac and them have worked on Hooker. Could have been a training situation, which led Hooker a little bit short. And I know Hooker had a lot of questionable decisions that went into draws that were tough fights, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. But I think Ortiz just going to walk forward on him, and Hooker ain't going to have nothing to keep him up off of him.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, Reggie. Ramirez and Ortiz, they basically have the same type of style. They're two different men, of course, with two different physical dimensions, and the way that they go about their work, meaning that you know the execution is quite similar. But if Hooker had trouble there at a lower weight, what is he going to do against a stronger guy, a bigger, stronger guy? See, and I talked about it being like a situation where he has vulnerabilities. One, he drops his hands. He's wide open when he punches. He telegraphs his shots. He doesn't tuck the chin away and hide it. He looks to engage when he shouldn't, from distances or that are at disadvantages for him. And I think that this is going to be a situation where it's just a matter of time when Ortiz catches up to him. Do you think he could hurt Ortiz with anything? Of course, a man can get a shot in, a punch that nobody sees or whatever can definitely hurt them or whatever. But I will say it should be action-packed, because you're going to see somebody getting hit. And that's the thing. People like action. You know, people, you don't just necessarily like to see a guy working to finally track a dude down and get him. No, if you get some exchanges, somebody go down, they get up, they keep fighting, you know, that might be the case. And if he's motivated, this is his chance, meaning Mo Hooker. But it's like he has to fight the type of fight that we have yet to see him fight. See? And that's the difference right there. I think that there are things that he could do, but I'm not certain that he'll do them. And, you know, I can elaborate on that when we have the post-fight show, because I do believe that there'll be opportunities. The greatest opportunity is this, Reg. This man is thinking about Bud Crawford. He ain't thinking about Mo Hooker. How much have you heard him say about Mo Hooker? He's been talking about Bud Crawford. And when a guy is looking like that, trying to look through you to the other opponent or whatever, you have to make him realize who you are and where you are. You're right here in front of him. And that'll be an opportunity for Mr. Mo Hooker. I mean, what do you think?
No, I agree with you. And I like you said, he is overlooking the heck out of Mo Hooker. But I don't think Mo Hooker got anything for Ortiz.
Yeah. So, going back to the chat, Taylor Bell says, I mean, if it was 25 pounds, not that far-fetched. Yeah, Michael James 616 is out there. He says, salute Stormy B, man. Salute family. Salute to you. And Eric R says, like the NFL and NBA, if you let the fighters fight, the action will organically create the star. Absolutely. You don't need to rely on followers. Absolutely. Salute to Nate the Great out there in that super chat. He says, salute to Stormy, Reggie, and the chat. Legacy is shown when a man sets aside his fears for his chance to be mentioned among the past greats. True statement. The Jab Jamboree has joined us. He says, as Stormy B-Man, salute. Eric R says, shear the sheep. You can always make more money. You can only skin it once, and that's what these guys try to do when marinating. It's not even marinating anymore, man. It's really avoiding, and it's like, you know, you hear everybody using the words duck now, duck, duck, duck. Yeah, this is exactly what it is. And it's not so much ducking out of fear. It's like they've become content with what they have. The purses that they've earned, the cars they drive, the women that they're sleeping with, and all of that foolishness. They content with that, you know. But as I said before, you have to find a point when you have to fight for more than just that bag. You have to find a motivational factor, because Marvin Hagler said it's hard to get out of that bed when you're sleeping on them silk sheets, man. You know what I mean? So that's right. So let's see what else we got out here. People are saluting each other, and Thrill Hill is out there. He says Stanonis would be a better opponent. Stanonis would win. That's my man. Taylor Bell says quarter pound. Mr. Mechanical is laughing out loud, and Mr. Mechanical says duck, duck, goose. Yeah, man, that's about what it is, really and truly. But yeah, that's we're pretty much here at the hour, Reggie. It's been a great show, man. It moves along when we really be talking boxing, don't it? It moves.
Heck yeah.
So are you calling the fights tomorrow?
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah, I'm beyond it.
Okay, you know, we got Bitter Beef in the afternoon, and then the DAZN fight cards is later. So, you know, just to give you that reminder. And I think that the ESPN fight is regular ESPN for Bitter Beef. I think it's regular ESPN.
Yeah, I just got to check the times on those.
Yeah, so why don't you go ahead and give us your final thoughts, Reg, and don't forget to drop that link in the chat for you. And we got Renee Box Young out there. It says Stormy OG. Salute to Renee Box Young, man. And Brent Fox says salute Stormy B-Man and Reggie Owens. Salute to you, brother. And he says, dang, I came late. Yeah, Renee, you out there trying to, you know, do live streams, running up against the chop session and everything. We will crush you. No, I'm just kidding. But glad you came by, bro. Mike James 616 says, as a world champion, I don't think I'd sleep comfortably knowing they were making more money in the 80s. Hey, man, that's it, man. G Trey says, I got a funny feeling Mo gon' win. Hey, man, if he does, more power to him, and I will come and you know, celebrate his victory. But he's got a tough mountain to climb, you know. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't want to see him do it. So, but yeah, man, go ahead and give us your final thoughts, Reg.
Man, yes, indeed, man. Thank y'all for coming back through for another Friday chop session. tuning in, and we got a lot of fights tomorrow. It's gonna be a lot of fights going on. I think the UFC even got something going on. So another fight weekend, and that's the way I like it.
Yes, sir. And we don't forget that tomorrow night after the fights, when the final fight is over, we will be back for a post-fight show with Reggie and I, and we'll talk about it, the action of the day, man. This is great stuff, man. It's like being able, when the fight cards are happening and we can talk boxing like we do, it's very entertaining and uplifting, and that's one of the reasons that I do still love the sport. But I just wish that we didn't have to deal with so much of the politics of the sport, man. So much. But it is what it is in that aspect. So, but hey, man, we'll be back for the post-fight show after the fights tomorrow evening. Hope everybody have a wonderful evening here. And we're going to get on up out of here, man, and let everybody enjoy their Friday night, man. Reggie, you got a stream going this evening?
I might do one later on. It's probably going to be a mix of boxing and politics.
Yeah. See, for you guys that are new to my channel, if you haven't been following Reggie, that brother be over there with them late night streams. So if you ain't got nothing to do, you better check him out. He might have something going on that you really are interested in. So that's what he does over there. And it's not always boxing, but it's always interesting. I can tell you that. So, but yeah, we're going to get on up out of here. It's been another great Friday night chop session, man. And I'm proud to have been able to come out here and do number 102, where we called it Touch 'em Up. So we out of here. Peace.
Peace.